everyone, and welcome to Just Say No podcast. I'm Kelly Winters. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm here today with my amazing co-host.
Hello, everyone. I'm Coach Kayla Wynn, aka Kayla Winters. I utilize pronouns she, her, they, them, and we are so excited to have Sarah Franco and Jade Zaroff from Jade and Jaded joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we're so excited to have you guys here. So Sarah is a stand-up comedian, a character comic, sketch, and screenwriter, and can be found on TikTok as Dr. Barbara, the Gen Z therapist. And Jade is an artist, producer, entrepreneur, changemaker, and the founder of Entertainment for Change, aka EFC. And together they have their web comedy series, Jade and Jaded, where they make it their mission to reach young people by taking their art activism online, making videos about health, the environment, and mindfulness. So welcome.
So great to be here.
Yes.
We're so excited to have you. So today we will get into Jade and Sarah's journeys of rejecting, seeking, and changing. But before we do, it's super important that we take some time to acknowledge the privilege that we hold as we dive deeper. Kayla and I are both white women born in America, come from a middle-class single-family home. We both have a college education, are in heteronormative relationships. We're both able-bodied, and I utilize cisgendered pronouns and am neurotypical.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for that acknowledgement and taking the time for that, especially as we continue to dive deeper on each topic. We also want to hold space and acknowledge the stolen Native American lands that we're recording this podcast on. We are located in Orange County, California. This region includes the Tongva, Juanino, and Luiseno Native American tribes.
Thanks, Kayla, for that acknowledgement of the Native American land that we're on. Now, let's jump into our special guests. Hi, Jade and Sarah. Welcome to Just Say No podcast.
Hi there.
Hello.
Thanks so much for making that initial statement. I very much identify with that as well, especially as we make content both highlighting and satirizing influencer activism.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I second that. I really have never experienced that happen on podcast interviews or any interviews in general that I've listened to / been on. So I fully respect and honor that. Like, good for you for being able to really step into that.
Yeah, of course. It's always like our purpose to never, especially as like white women in America who have like the most privilege, to just always make that clear as like that's what we're speaking from. So, yeah. So before we get started, we briefly want to get to know you more. So we have 2 off the bat questions. Are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So first off, where are you both from?
I'm so nervous. New York City. I forgot for a second.
I am also from New York City. Born and raised.
That's awesome. You guys are our first like East Coasters. We've only had like people from the West Coast, which is where we're from. So represent East Coasters up in the house.
All right. Highlighting the Jaded and Jade and Jaded. Us New Yorkers can get salty, but Jade is a breath of fresh air in that.
Oh, you too, Sarah. That's like the fun of social media of like, you just watch a video and you're like now connected to people who are literally across the world from you.
100%.
Absolutely.
And our second question is, what color are you guys feeling today?
I love that question.
I'm feeling this like chambray.
I love that.
Me too.
You want a cheesy answer? Because I can give it.
Whatever.
I think, I'm feeling jade green.
I love it.
I was like, how cheesy can this get?
I know.
And then I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, if you watch the show, like Sarah and I have the same. I just knew Sarah's gonna be like, oh my gosh, but in like the best way. But this is jade green. I just think that like green is the love shot or the heart chakra, to be fair. So I'm feeling very heart centered in like feeling really grateful whenever we do podcast episodes on this. I'm like, I feel myself. So green is like the extension of. I also had a lot of spinach this morning. So.
Love
So that plays in, of course.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Green inside and out.
Yeah. Feeling
Oh my
green.
That's fantastic.
I love it. It's perfect. It's like cheesy, but also so sweet and like
So
all
real.
the things. Yeah. Well, again, we are just like so excited to have you here. And Kelly and I love that you guys both are on this mission to help young people and like empower them and speak to them on these topics of health, the environment, and mindfulness, and giving your guys like own little spin. I was sharing earlier with Jade how I like found them on Instagram. I got this random video just came up of this girl in this globe costume, and I was like, what is going on? And so it really is like intention catching. So as you know, Just Say No is all about this process of rejecting, seeking, and changing for the better. So walk us through what this rejection process was like for you guys as you guys started up with Jade and Jaded.
I think there was a fair amount of rejection, and I say that as the co-writer and the director of the show. And we also made this when we were 23. I was 23 when we shot the episodes that are now up. And so there was a lot of trial and error, rejection in that way. I'm realizing, I don't know if I ever told you this, Jade, on one of the episodes, we completely lost one of the sound files.
Oh my gosh.
We completely
by our
lost
own computers.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be able to tell which one. Our sound designer did an incredible job. He just let me know. He's like, just so you know, the individual mic files are missing for this episode.
I think I did know that because I had to go back in and like re-record something, or I don't know.
It wasn't that one.
No, it wasn't that one. Okay.
It wasn't.
That's funny.
We can talk about it later, but yeah, that was just a lot of rejection of ego, I think, was the biggest thing in my process of creating the show, from pre to post-production to release, was ego death.
Yeah, and I think like to piggyback off of that, an interesting thing that just popped up was like the choice of of like, I don't know how necessarily this is going to come out, but we actually recorded about 3 episodes of like a completely different, basically reiteration of the show itself. And I was just looking at this today with someone. We recorded 3 episodes and then we scratched it entirely, completely, and started all over. So actually the rejection of ego, but also like your choice to say no to something, similarly to when someone else has to say no to you, but you're experiencing that no in a different way because like you haven't chosen that. Like we had to actually say, we have to reject what we did to start over, and that being like a choice that takes longer and you have to like redo the whole thing, and you're really signing up for something that is furthering the unknown, you know?
God, I remember coming to you and knowing I wanted to tell you I wanted to start over, and I was so nervous. I was like, oh God, what is she gonna say? And you were so on the same page and so accepting. I said, I think these are not it. And you were like, great, cool, let's start over.
Wow.
That's awesome.
We literally went through the same thing with our podcast. We had created all the design elements. We had everything going this direction with Your Sister's podcast, and it just wasn't sitting right. And we had the same experience where we were like, we both knew it was coming, but who's gonna say it first?
Yeah.
Who's gonna be the one to really like say like this? But like the minute that you do that and like I feel like step into what feels right, it's the best feeling, because then it's like
right. Did it make it easier or harder that you were sisters?
Right. Well, I think in lots of ways, I feel like this podcast in general has challenged us so much, even just like us, like, you know, acknowledging our privilege in the stolen Native American land, and like being really intentional about like being diverse with our guests and the different topics and all that. Like that has like created so much challenge for us just from the beginning, where like Your Sister's podcast, we didn't really quite have that like intense of an intention behind it, but like it's been so worth it. Like, how can I not be so excited to be able to like have this opportunity to constantly be learning and like stepping into this? It's amazing. I'm so excited. So I'm curious to hear like what was the previous content that you guys created? Was it on the similar theme of like environment and mindfulness and everything, or
It
what was the
was.
Okay, cool.
It was similar and also very different. The very basic concept was there of two girls creating a YouTube series and kind of not being great at it, like the comedy of that. But it was completely, the characters were much younger. They were like high school aged. There was an older sister character. It was
just
God.
very like the plot was different, but the intention and the concept was the same. And I think just like trajectory wise of where these two women were gonna go shifted based on like what Sarah just said. There was an older sister, so like honestly, you two could probably appreciate that. Like when you have a sister, like you as a character, you as a person is going to change because your journey is going to be different in like how you interact and see the world if you have an older sister versus like you've got no one who's been telling you or batting you or resisting you or.
And the tone was very different. It was kind of disingenuous to us because we were pretending to be something we weren't really. Like we were kind of going that iCarly, like Disney Channel show route, which is something that we were interested in. But as I learned
we're a little
at
older.
Emerson,
I guess the fact that we're older, like we've
we are older, we were younger, obviously younger than we are now, but we were still in our 20s, kind of pretending to be like 13-year-olds. It was just a little weird. It was a little off. And once I reached out to my co-writer, Kendall, who ended up, jumping on, the tone really just took shape in a more genuine way to who we are, which ultimately made it funnier.
Right.
That's
more
awesome.
Authentic to you. I think
I
that's
was
really great. Yeah. I'm really curious to hear if you guys experienced any sort of like because you guys got to this place where like you're deciding to speak on like environmentalism and the planet and whatnot. So I'm curious if you guys have faced like any rejection along that process to like deciding to make like a whole web series and all of this stuff with this kind of being like an important theme.
Rejection from other people in the environmental kind of world and such. And I was raised in the world of sustainability in a very real way. Like this entire series was filmed out of my apartment in New York City. Like my mom, all of the trinkets that I grew up with and all of our art and everything that like existed in the world of Jade and Jaded was what birthed both Jade as a character, but also literally like what I grew up with as Jade as a person. So like ironically and like in a beautiful way, we were able to tell that story from the lens of like someone who's lived that experience. And I think that because of that, I think with comedy, which we can probably talk about more later, like it adds a lightness to making a difference. And I think that you have to be really careful about offending people with comedy. Obviously, like there is a very like the line gets blurred a little bit. You in honoring reality in the beginning of this podcast, like art can be a beautiful way to do that, and also comedy can be an interesting way to do that where you don't want to offend people. But I think from a sustainability standpoint and like climate action is a very big deal of obviously a really important thing, and like we have to take it seriously. But I think that like comedy is a vehicle to ease ourselves into a big conversation and a heavy conversation. And I think because of the brilliant writing of Sarah and Kendall, they were able to have like a entry point into poking fun at me, and then me being able to poke fun at myself made it you know, an accessible conversation where then you don't get backlash from the environmental movement. You actually get like, oh, this girl like really cares. And that's the feeling you get of like, because I like really care about it, but I'm able to laugh at myself. So I'm hoping people laugh with me and not, honestly, like I've had plenty of people in my life laugh at me, but like, I think it's just, you know, when you can find the humor in something authentic, then you can't reject something that's real. So I think that we were very mindful and intentional in how we told that story and how we brought it to life.
That's awesome. What was like part of the process of like initially this like rejection of the immediate show that you guys like had first filmed to then starting like the second beginning of like what ended up being the web series?
Well, I did not handle that rejection well. I was like
Take it away,
22
Sarah.
when we did the first version, and I was so disheartened that I really kind of emotionally stepped back from the project. And then it was Jade's encouragement that had me reach out to Kendall and say, I think I'm on the wrong track here. So frankly, I did not handle the rejection well. But once I kind of got back on my horse, thanks to Jade and Kendall, and then the introduction of our director of photography, Eric Handeffer, he, once we got on the phone with him, it felt real again. I was like, all right, no, let's do this. Let's jump back into production and tell a funny story that means something.
Yeah, and I think like what you two said of when you did the reiteration of your podcast, it's like your sister, so you grew up together. You can like hopefully and probably say whatever, you know, bluntly and share. And the safe spaces element of it is so important. And I think that like we're often talking about what that looks like, but like you have to kind of literally bring that to life. And with no ego, like I hold myself responsible for that and accountable to that. And I think on as a writer, like that's like something similar to an actor or director, but like when you write something, it's like really vulnerable. And I think Sarah, not to speak for you, but what you just said, like you were really vulnerable in like maybe this material could be better. And I think that like when it comes to collaboration, if you don't have a safe space to explore what else is possible or like how to pivot or how to do that in ways that are healthy, then maybe it's not something you should continue doing. And I think that like if Jade and Jaded wasn't meant to continue, it wouldn't have. But because of the like the conversation that happened and the way things rolled out, I really believe fundamentally in this moment that like Sarah and I are meant to be collaborators, and because it's worked really well, and like we've been able to have very hard conversations that are also very direct, and like Sarah and I aren't perfect human beings. Sometimes we wake up on the wrong foot, but we're still able to like communicate effectively and communicate transparently. And I think that's what collaboration is to like be where you are and be able to like speak in a real way at any given moment. And when we went through that experience, we were able to get through it stronger on the other side.
I love that. Wow. That's awesome.
I love all of this. Just speaking, I feel like rejection is essentially being at your most vulnerable and saying no.
Totally.
You know, and like that's freaking scary. That's terrifying. It's
Absolutely.
like the last thing that you want to happen. It's like all of my worst fears are coming true, you know. And so I feel like being able to have someone that you can like be that authentic self with and be in that vulnerable place, and then being able to use that to then like become even a better version of yourself and to step into that and grow through that, I feel like is just absolutely amazing. So I'm so excited that you guys like went through that and are here now and kicking ass and like better for
also,
it. Like celebrate.
Yeah. And also just like last point of this, one of the proudest things I share with people is that we redid the show. So what's interesting is like when it's like, again, cheesy, but like when you read posts, like that person got rejected 100 times until they finally got their big break. Like when I'm sharing the journey of Jade and Jaded, and actually we would talk about this in the beginning of like, it'll be worth it. Like we're going to be able to talk about this. I actually like one of the first things I say to people, especially now where we're really trying to like push the show forward, I say like we actually redid the show. That's how passionate we are about it. Like it shows the like vigor you have for something and the drive you have for something.
I mean, we had our very first concept meeting November 2017, and we released the show October 2021. So that speaks to perseverance.
Yeah. The same.
Yeah.
We
long
did
time
not
coming.
have to.
Yeah.
But we kept her going.
I didn't
That's
even know that.
awesome.
That's amazing. That's speaks to the love, the commitment, the power that you guys have together. And like I feel like when things are like, I mean, of course everything has like its own like suffering to it, right? But I feel like when there's the passion and the love behind it, it's like, yes, I'm struggling, yes, I'm suffering in some ways, but because there is that love there, like you're able to sustain, which I think just speaks again to your guys' power and commitment to this, which is just so powerful. So it's amazing.
Same to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes. So we're curious a little bit more into and this maybe can speak to like the environmentalism and that background too, or your guys' writing that got you through this show. But what have you guys sought throughout this process? What did you guys seek that allowed you to get you to where you are now?
Who we seek? I love that. I think that I'm an observer of life, and I like really love the fact that we brought the authenticity of like what I shared before, which I won't go on a tangent about again, but like, and then Sarah's really great, and I think we balance each other in this way at like, here's a very general idea, and then Sarah kind of wrote those ideas down and looked into how to bring them to life in a specific way. And I think that like the research component, or even just like the diving deeper of a concept component, what the feedback I've gotten about Jade and Jaded, which I'm really grateful for and proud of, is and with no, like, I don't know how else to say this, like people keep saying it's smart, and I think that what I get from that comment is like, we were really thoughtful about Jade and Jaded. We were like, okay, here's a topic, how do we like balance again the reality of the topic itself with a clever way to deliver the message, but in a way that is like, this is what people deal with, or like this is what people experience. So there's like the playful nature and the like vagueness of a concept that then you specify by like looking at brands that are doing the thing, or looking at the specificity that can go into telling a story. I don't know if that answered the question, but we seeked everything. We seeked an earth costume first, and then we seeked and a camera.
And a camera.
That's awesome.
I love it. But no, I feel like that speaks to just like anyone going through something. You have to like the intention behind things. Like I feel like so often we get here's the magic pill. That's what we're seeking all the time, right? Like this magic pill. But actually, no, that's not the case. It requires hard work. It requires partnership, collaboration. It requires vulnerability. It requires you to be intentional and take the time, essentially. And that's what I really hear from what you're saying. And like, it is hard. There's no way to sugarcoat it.
Yeah. Intention, and like, I struggle with goals sometimes, but I've learned through this process actually being goal oriented is helpful. And I think like, again, I feel like Sarah sometimes it brings me back to earth.
I love that she's like laughing at you over here.
Yeah, I am thinking of all the times where I'm like, we're back in on set. Okay, guys, let's try another take. Yeah. It is 4 p.m. We started at 7.
Yeah, Sarah and I like ironically have like brought each other back to earth in different contexts.
Absolutely. Completely. Yeah. And I was going to say the thing that I sought the most that I think Jade has contributed to massively in my life is levity. I tried bringing, like, when I started in this process, my goal was to bring the absolute literal levity to, like, writing jokes in that way, like very concrete levity. But throughout the process, I was seeking levity of playfulness on set, of rejection, of like seriousness, of taking yourself too seriously, then even of, you know, panic, if we're getting into, you know, mental illness and stuff. But that was what I was seeking, and Jade is really good at bringing a sense of lightness and levity to any room, really.
Ooh.
I love seeing how you two, like, even here, like, you guys seem to balance each other so well. And I watched part of your series actually earlier today before this, just so I could see it and obviously, like, get more background on you guys. And even in the show, you guys just seem to like your characters, and even just like you as people, you seem so grounded in each other, and like you feel like, it seems like you feel so safe in Jade and Jaded. And it's just like, it's really nice to see. And especially as someone, like, I don't know a lot about like the climate crisis or like climate change. So it's definitely nice to like see you and watch this and be like, you know, I feel safe here and I don't feel stupid. And thank you for educating me in a way that is fun and like make something that's really serious like not seem so scary.
I've never heard the word safe in regards to our show. I love that.
That means a lot. Honestly, that means
profound to me as a comedian and as the showrunner of this project.
I'm glad.
Wow.
Because it definitely has. And I'm like definitely appreciative because again, like I don't really know a lot about climate crisis. And that was another thing that I was like so excited to have you guys on, is to have you like shed more light for us and like to learn more from you guys. So that's something that I want to ask. Obviously the outcome of like your rejecting and seeking was Jade and Jaded being finished. What struggles do you face now with this new change now that it's happened?
It being the release of the show?
Yeah.
What struggles do we have now that the show is out? Ooh.
If any.
I am still struggling with giving myself credit.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I talk to people about the show, or the website is in my email signature, I have a terrible habit of apologizing for the show, which is so silly because we have this product that is like a multi-festival winner. But still, I find when people say, I watched Jade and Jaded, the first thing I say is like, well, we made that years ago, and you know, like there's things I do now, and I struggle with stopping myself and accepting this wonderful, silly satire we created for what it is.
Yeah. Wow. I think I struggle to tell people to watch it. Like I almost am like, I struggle to kind of like advocate for myself, of, hey, this show exists, like watch all of it. Because, and then I struggle to like receive that was really good when people are like, I really enjoyed it, and I'm like, oh, good. Like, and I'm thinking like, that's the whole point, like we created it so people enjoy it. But I'm like, oh, it's okay.
Well,
so
Kelly, sorry,
like,
go ahead, Jade.
No, it's fine. What were you gonna say?
I want to know what Kelly's favorite part was.
Okay, there was one part on the third episode. I don't know what that thing was in the glass.
The SCOBY.
Yeah. The SCOBY. Was it like to make? It was like to make fermented things, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's like
that's what I thought.
The sourdough starter equivalent for kombucha.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I loved the part when you, Jade, were like carrying it in like the full baby frontal, just like completely babying it, and as it like being this thing, I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is great. And like you, Sarah, just being like so annoyed, like, really, we're gonna wish it a happy 1 week birthday? Like, is this for real? It was just great. I loved it.
That's our
I'm glad.
Yeah.
submitted that episode for this year's Emmy Awards to see like what would happen because of the like humor of just all those years of babysitting for me paid off of raising a Scooby myself. But I think with the like thing of struggle, what I just shared, I struggle so much with, you never know what's going to happen with anything, right? Like when you put out, especially, and I feel like I should start owning this, another struggle as a woman. Like we have to kind of fight a little bit more for what we need and want in certain circumstances. And we still have privilege married with like fighting for what we want. That balance is like such an interesting journey in and of itself. And my struggle with this project is having big goals and owning them. And like really saying like I'm capable of achieving this goal that I think and even I'm like, we deserve. Like I don't know, but
you do. You do deserve this.
Say it again.
Like I totally genuinely struggle with that. Like deserving a big goal is something that like, especially with this show, I'm like, and usually I have to close my eyes and jump and just I'm like, let's just try something and like do this and whatever. And usually like you either come out the other side learning something or you come out the other side, you know, stronger, you know, you always come out the other side learning something.
Yeah.
If I can add one more thing that I've struggled with since the creation and release of the show, again, as a white cis creator, the show is very white. It's a very white show. And I have been reckoning as a creator with the fact that I feel we could have done better in that respect. And my intent was to kind of write as we go. And, oh yeah, of course we're going to add more people and more characters. And as we went on, it became clear that the dynamic of the episodes was that any character that wasn't Jade or Sarah was kind of a villain character. And that posed its own issues. And I was like, oh God, like I don't want to create this picture of the only people of color in this show are villains to the protagonist. So then and I mean, in one of our episodes, we have a guy who went to juvie. How deeply problematic would that be if that was the only man of color on the show? Right. In hindsight, I'm like, we really could have and probably should have done better with that. I want to own that up front.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna say a couple things.
No, then go.
I wanted to say that I appreciate you saying that, and I feel like you know, something that I've been working like on my anti-racism journey. Like we're all students and we're here like actively learning like how we can do better. And I love the fact that you're just like acknowledging that and like owning that. And it's like now we do better from here on out, and like that's all that we can do.
Exactly. That's all we can do is learn and not be defensive and just continue to accept.
Yeah.
Like we have a kind of map of if we were to take Jade and Jaded further, and any additional characters are all people of color.
Love that. Beautiful.
Slay.
I'm so excited for that.
It's like my favorite thing right now.
Bare minimum.
Right. But at least you're showing up. Yeah. So.
And something that I want to speak to too is you, Jade, mentioning like this inability of like acceptance of like these big goals and whatnot. And one thing I just loved, like I watched your guys' first episode and like we're YouTube girls now. Like what? And like I was just laughing so hard because I was like, that's me as fuck. Like Kelly and I we're podcasters now. Like what the hell? Like who? What? Me? But like it's so true. Like we just like I saw myself in that so hard, but like actively I'm always telling Kelly, I'm like, yes, we are podcasters. We are nothing less. And like really working on that because like there's so much like cringe. Like even nowadays, like I record like a reel in public. I'm like cringe. Like, like this is so gross. Like here I am showing up because I don't know. And I feel like just like, I don't know, hearing you guys say that, and I just feel like if you are struggling with something or struggling with, I feel like, owning like these big goals that you have, like you're not alone in that struggle, but to also fucking own it because you deserve to. Like these two created an amazing
But
web series that like I see myself in so much, and like own it because you guys deserve to. You guys put in the work, clearly.
Oh, thank
So
you.
Definitely.
we
Thank
appreciate you
you.
guys.
I had the question. So you guys are Emmy nominated for the web series, right?
We are up for Emmy nomination.
Okay.
So at this point, I'll say if there are any members of the Television Academy tuning into this episode, please consider Jade and Jaded for Outstanding Short Form Drama, Comedy, or Variety. Our episode submitted is episode 3, Scobulicious. And vote for a women-led web series written by 2 queer folks about the planet.
Yes.
Emmy
That's
for the Earth.
awesome.
Yes.
I'm excited for you guys. If so, I don't know if we can vote for Emmys, but if so, you have my vote. Don't
You
worry.
have our vote.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anything that like our listeners can do to support you guys on this journey besides obviously watching the series? Anything
Share
else?
us and use hashtag Emmy for the Earth.
Okay.
Because we need awareness from members of the Television Academy. We're in the same category as Carpool Karaoke. So we're gonna need those votes.
That's cool.
Or we have a snowball's chance in hell. So we need awareness. Share the show and share that we are up for the Emmy consideration, up for the Emmy nom. Oh gosh, I was gonna say one more thing. Yeah, that's basically it. Just share and voting opens June 15th, I believe.
Got it.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we're doing a for-your consideration campaign. So that's the whole vibe. We're really pushing the show's awareness, as Sarah said, and as you know, cringy as it can sometimes be, definitely follow us on social media because that is super helpful in terms of just like how the industry works. And I'm sure you two can appreciate as incredible podcasters. It's about how many people are listening. It's about I'm a big believer of quality versus quantity. And I'm learning that to own getting followers, as Jade would be proud of me from the show to say this, but the amount of people allow for scaling what you're doing and making those goals possible. So definitely following us is helpful.
Absolutely. Cool. We will definitely share all of your guys' info in the description of this episode. And again, I just want to thank you guys so much for your time and being here and doing this project and speaking to these important topics, because it is helpful for young people. I was telling Kelly how like climate change feels almost like it's not our problem because like the zombies haven't come yet. So
that's a great way of putting it. I love that.
We haven't really seen the impact because of like our industrial life. It's really just kind of like smoothed over like the chaos that is happening around us. I know I recently heard that like they've added a new like color to the heat scale because like the earth has gotten hotter, that there's like a new color. I heard that it was like 130 degrees in Thailand the other day. Like, what the fuck is going on? Why isn't this on the news? Why isn't this like, why don't people know about this? And I think the other thing is there's been this huge focus on like individualism through this. Again, it speaks to capitalism and all the bullshit that we're surrounded with. But like we need to be screaming at our companies. We need to be screaming at our policymakers, and we like change needs to be happening. So I just wanted to speak to that because I'm angry.
And to make light in the spirit of what Sarah believes I do best.
Thank you.
Vote with your vote with your dollar. That's something you can control. I think sometimes it's like we see that extra temperature and we're like, what do I do? And I used to have this conversation all the time and still do. Obviously, it's like the zombies haven't come yet. Like it's a us later problem, and we're me now society. So it's hard to kind of make that distinction. But the brands that you're buying from, makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because those are the brands that are literally making money from your dollar. And so that's something you can always control. You go to the store, take the 2 seconds it takes to look into what that brand is about. And like maybe that takes a week to like figure out or whatever, but like the transparency of a brand, pull the curtain back and look for the brands that are actually like committed to the thing.
Absolutely.
Some of the comedy we try to incorporate, especially in our recent content, like on TikTok. I know I made one of when you're still supporting the 71 corporations that cause 100% of like carbon emissions, and the sound is like, if you're gonna be stupid, you better be tough. And Jade did like when it like really heinous polluter makes like an eco-friendly campaign, and it's like the Pink Panther sound of the globe being like, I don't know, I don't buy it, this ain't right.
Yeah,
I love it. No, I definitely saw that one. It's hilarious, and it's helpful though. Like you can laugh about it and then be like, oh shit, okay, let's do something.
Yeah,
that's why we're
okay.
That
Yes,
is the whole,
thank
you laugh and then you say, wait a minute.
Let me get my shit together. Maybe I should shout that company up. Maybe I should be checking this out. So again, we just like appreciate you guys so much for everything that you do, being able to like make us laugh about it, even though we want to cry about it, and all the things that you guys are doing. So thank you. We appreciate
thank you too for amplifying people who are doing work that is driving positive change.
Absolutely.
It's our pleasure.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it is, again, so important for Kelly and I to enforce that this is a safe space, really giving ourselves grace, allowing ourselves to be present with these conversations surrounding change. If you are just finishing listening to this conversation, we really want to encourage you guys to offer yourself time to reflect and journal even if you need it.
We will leave ways to get in contact with us and Jade and Sarah in the bio. Remember, our episodes come out on the first and third Friday of every month. You can find this pod on any podcast streaming service, and the video version is available on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and in case you didn't catch it, just say no.
Woo! We did it.
Killed it.